Today we are reading from the 10th book in the Left Behind series. The name of this book is The Remnant on the Brink of Armageddon. Today I'll be reading chapter 4. Chang sat fidgeting at his desk, pretending to work, unable to concentrate. He was supposed to be coordinating flights and convoys of equipment, food, and supplies from production plants to the neediest areas. He had devised a way to make it appear his instructions were logical and complete, even efficient. But the actual transmissions caused no end of delays. Because of a glitch he had introduced into the system, shipments were held for days at remote locations, then delivered to the wrong places. Often, the wrong place for the GC meant the right place for the co op or the tribulation force. Chang had received accommodation for his work, somehow covering his tracks and avoiding having the problems traced to him. Something was niggling at the back of his mind now, though. Something didn't make sense. Ming had left a note informing the Chicago Tribulation Force that she was on her way to see her parents in China. If that was true, why would she go east? It only made sense for her to find a flight to the West Coast. True, the major California cities were rubble, and the big airports gone, but there were still many places to fly out of. Chang considered finding illness and taking the rest of the afternoon off, but he couldn't risk bringing attention to himself. Too many tribulation forcers were in precarious positions. He needed to be in place for them without suspicion. He watched the clock. Buck sat with Kenny on his lap and chatted with Zeke and Leah. It was just after 8 in the morning, and Leah was riffling through stacks of messages and reports from the co op people all over the world. Amazingly, the thing was largely working, even with the tragedy of the seas. The sheer audacity of people without the mark of loyalty transporting in their own vehicles gigantic shipments of goods to one another, no money changing hands, boggled the mind. Do you know what you have in that wife of yours, Buck? Leah said. Buck hadn't learned how to read Leah yet. He wanted to take that as a straight out compliment, praise for Chloe. But did he detect a challenge? Was Leah implying he was insensitive, that he didn't know what he had in Chloe? Yes, I think I do, he said. I don't think he does, Kenny. Do you? Do you think he does? Does, Kenny said. Do you? The baby giggled. Do you know what you've got in that mommy of yours, sweetheart? She's a genius. But Kenny heard mommy and began to squirm and repeat, Mama, Mama. Thank you, Leah, Buck said. I'm sorry, she said, and it sounded as if she meant it. If she hadn't, Buck was prepared to add brilliant, real smart. That was the effect Aaliyah had on him. She appeared to be trying to distract Kenny by changing the subject, but she should have tried with something that would interest him, not Buck. I'm serious, she said. You know what I've learned here? Chloe knows how many 1,000-ton or larger ocean going vessels there were in the world before the seas turned to blood. You don't say. Say, Kenny said. I do say, Leah said. Can you guess? I don't know, Buck said. Thousands, I suppose. Can I guess? Zeke said. Zeke, Kenny shouted. I'm guessing more'n 30,000. Ships that big? Buck said. Sounds high. He's right on the money, Leah said. What? Did Chloe tell you or something? How did you know that? Zeke couldn't hide a grin. Yeah, she told me. But that's a pretty good memory, right? Buck turned it over in his mind. What happens to all those ships? He said. Ruined, Leah said. Dead in the water. Well, dead in the blood, anyway. And if God lifts the judgment, the blood turns back to salt water, then what? She shook her head. No idea. I can't imagine what it would take to clean a ship of blood throughout its works. And the dead fish, Zee said. Fish. Who could stand the smell? You don't see it on the news, but people who live on the coast are trying to move. If nothing changes, the smell will only get worse, and the disease and all that. Ugh. Ugh. Buck let Kenny run off. I can't imagine how Carpathia deals with this. You can't spin it, can't gloss over it. Thousands are dying every day, and think of the crews marooned. They'll eventually all die. Hey, Leah, I did a piece a few years back on the surprising dependence Panama had on its shipping industry. What does this do to a country like that? She flipped through some sheets. They're the only country with more ships than Greece, she said. It's got to bankrupt them. The mention of Greece made Buck check his watch. Late afternoon there, he said. If the plan is working, they ought to be ready to move in when it gets dark. Why are they waiting? Buck shrugged. Mac thinks it gives them an advantage. He doesn't know what's going to unfold, but if they have to shoot their way out or try to escape somehow, he figures they're a leg up in the darkness. Leah sat staring as if she wasn't listening. Something on your mind? Buck said. I was expecting a call or an email by now. Chloe told me a businessman had something he wanted to ship to Petra. Cheap housing modules of some kind. Yeah? Wealthy guy made a killing in low-cost housing, then became a believer. He's really into the timing. Totally buys into Tyson's charts and graphs, figures the glorious appearing exactly 7 years from the original agreement between Carpathia and Israel. Don't you? Sure, if Tyson told me today was yesterday, I'd believe it. It was clear she had lost her train of thought. I miss him, Buck. I pray for him constantly. We all do. Not like I do. Yeah, I know. What? I know. You do. Of course, Buck said. Just thinking about him makes you forget what you were talking about. She looked embarrassed. That's not true. Prove it. We were talking about ships, Panama and Greece. We were on to modular housing, Leah. We were, weren't we? We were. Now, who is this guy, and what do we need to hear from him? Leah stood and looked out a pinhole in the black paint that covered the windows. Not sure, she said. He's from right here in Illinois. Something Grove. Says we got less than 3.5 years left, and he'd like us to help him figure a way to get his inventory to Petra. Says they could build the houses themselves in no time. You think he survived, don't you, Buck? Survived what? The bombing. This guy was in Petra. Tyson. Oh, pardon me. We're back to him. Well, I'm just as concerned about my father-in-law and Chaim and Abdullah. But yes, I do. Do what? Think they survived. We won't be able to tell from the news, will we? No, but Chang should know. He knows all. Chang had skipped lunch, so when his day was over, he went back to his quarters by way of the central mess and filled a bag with food. There was so much he wanted to listen to, but top priority was tracking his sister. He didn't know if his parents were on the move or already in hiding, but they would be vulnerable regardless without the mark of loyalty. He had sent them contact information on an underground church in their province, but he had never heard back whether they had or would try to make a connection. How would Ming find them if he didn't even know where they if she didn't even know where they if he didn't even know where they were? And how long would it take her to get to China, heading east out of the United North American States? The mood was somber in the palace complex. Everyone seemed in a hurry to get to their quarters. It had been a strange day. Who had not seen the attack on the rebels? And was anyone snowed by the so-called technical difficulties that suddenly swept the coverage from the air? Just when the pilot clearly said he thought he saw people alive below? Chang casually glanced up and down the corridor, quickly entering his quarters, and locked the door. He ran his computer through a quick program that checked his room for bugs. It showed his system installed by David Hasid and left for his use and safekeeping, still secure and running normally. Chang wolfed down fruit and crackers, then checked his email. There was his confirmation, addressed to the bogus name he used as an operative of the Global Community Aviation Administration. Passenger GC Peacekeeper Chang Chow from Sector 30, riding with pilot Lionel Wellham, Long Grove, Illinois. Flight plan nonstop to Pawleys Island, South Carolina. Round trip for Wallem, Mr. Chow's papers in order. Destination San Diego, California. Note, Wallem did not bear the mark of loyalty, but Mr. Chow asserted that he would see to it when they arrived in South Carolina. Chang fired off a thanks, then searched the database for flights from Pawleys Island to San Diego. A flyer scheduled for that route the next day rang a bell in Chang's mind. It was a co-op pilot. So Ming was using co-op people to get herself to China. Was Whalem co-op too? He ran a search against Chloe's records. Nothing. If he was co-op, he hadn't been used yet, or at least she hadn't logged him. Maybe he used another name, or maybe Chloe was behind in entering her records. Chang checked the International GC database, and while the search engine looked for Wallem, he finished eating. He came back to the computer to find a photo of an entire page on Lionel Wallem of Long Grove, Illinois. The man was black, of African descent. He and his wife with 3 kids had moved from Chicago to the suburbs when his business became successful. He had won many civic and business awards. His loyalty to the global community was listed as unknown but not suspicious. Chang switched to another database and copied information for a Loyalty Oath Administration Center at Statesville in Illinois. Switching back to Wallem's records, he changed the loyalty designation to confirmed, documented by the GC squadron in Statesville on the date Wallem had received his mark. If he was co-op, that would take the heat off, and it ought to tip off Ming that Chang was watching out for her. A tone sounded on Chang's computer, and scrolling type informed him and all other GC personnel of the unfortunate loss of both pilots involved in the attack on rebel forces today. Due to pilot error, their payloads missed the target by more than a mile, and the insurgents fired missiles that destroyed both planes. The global community expresses its sympathy to the families of these heroes and martyrs to the cause of world peace. Chang quickly flipped to the hangar manifest and found that both multi-million Nick aircraft were back and accounted for. The morgue listed both pilots as deceased. Remains delivered from crash sites in the Negev. Their personnel records had already been flagged in red with the date of their death. He called up the recording from Akbar's office around the time the first flyer would have returned. There was clear conversation with Akbar's secretary, and the pilot began being escorted to the conference room. A few minutes later came the pleasantries, the invite to sit again. Then Suhail. Good effort on there today, man. Thank you, sir, came the answer with a British accent. Perfect execution. Felt good. I'm sorry. You're unaware then that your mission failed? Sir? That the outcome was negative? I don't follow, Director. Both incendiaries were bullseye and the entire area was consumed, as ordered. When I turned for home, the missile had been launched. And according to what I heard, you seriously don't know that you missed your target. Sir, if the coordinates were correct, we did not miss. There were no casualties, young man. Impossible. I saw people there before we launched, and I saw nothing but fire for several minutes before I left. The effort was there, as I said. Unfortunately, human error resulted in utter failure. I'm not, I am at a loss, sir. You will be demoted. And the party line is that you don't know how such a significant oversight could have occurred. Begging your pardon, sir, but I am not convinced it occurred. I'm telling you it occurred, and that it is what you would tell anyone who wants to know. I will not. Either you prove to me we missed our target, or I will maintain to everyone I know that this mission went off without a hitch. You will see in due time reconnaissance photos that show no loss of life in Petra. You've seen these? Of course I have. And you have no doubt as to their veracity? None, son. There was a long pause. The young man's voice sounded pitiful. If there is one survivor on that mountain, it's a miracle. You know what we dropped there. You ordered it yourself. It can't be explained away. And I won't take the heat for it. You already have. You and your compatriot will be reassigned, and you know how to respond to. I will not testify to something I don't believe, sir. Come, come, mister. I see the two on your hand and the image of our leader. You're a loyal citizen. You contribute to the cause. Would the Podun want me to say I made a mistake when I didn't? But you did. I did not. His Excellency is most disappointed in you, son. I'm not doing it, Director Akbar. Excuse me? I won't play along. I take great pride in my work. I didn't question the order. I believe these people were dangerous and a threat to the global community. I did what I was instructed to do, and I did it right. No one can tell me we missed the primary target or that our 82s didn't waste that whole area and all those people. If you have evidence that proves concretely that they survived, then I'm going to call it what it is. I'll accept no demotion, and I won't parrot a party line. If those people are still alive, they're superior to us. If they are still alive, they win. We can't compete with that. You realize you leave me no choice. Sir, we cannot have personnel shirk responsibility for their own errors. You will not be able to silence me. Akbar laughed and was interrupted by the intercom. Primary pilot is waiting, sir. Send him in. As soon as Chang heard the sound of the door, the Brit started in. Tell him, Yuri. Tell him we didn't screw up. What? And the conversation began anew. Akbar blaming the failure on the pilots. The Brit protesting. Yuri silent for the moment. Excuse me a moment, gentlemen, Suhail said. The door opened and closed. Carrie, Yuri said, listen to me. He's right. He's not right. I saw what I saw, and I will never. Shh, listen, you and I both know we launched perfectly, and I was there after you had gone. You heard my transmission. Those people survived the blues and the lance, lived through it all. Impossible. Impossible, but true. A miracle? Obviously. Then we must live with it, Yuri. We must make the GC and the world face it. They are a more than formidable enemy, and unless we admit that, we'll never have a chance to defeat them. I agree. You heard me try to say it. They took you off the air. Now they want to make us the scapegoats, demote us, make us admit failure. Not sure, Yuri said. That's my man, the Brit said. They traded encouragement. Be strong, don't give in, let's stick together. Chang checked Akbar's phone. Suhail had called the medical wing and asked for Dr. Consuela Conchita. Only the day before, Chang had read the staff bulletin announcing her promotion to Surgeon General of the global community. Connie, Akbar said, I need 2 heavy doses of sedative. The quick stuff. My conference room, ASAP. I'll have security here in case the patients resist, and bring gurneys from the morgue. The morgue? I want them cremated. You're asking for lethal doses. No, I just want them out before they leave here under sheets. The cremation will do the rest, will it not? Kill them? Of course it will. You're asking that we execute 2 people? This is from the top floor, Consuela. A pause. I understand. Chang grimaced as he listened to the recording of Akbar, trying to convince the flyers that he had asked for injections to help calm them. Both began scuffling and shouting, and Chang could tell they were held down and given the shots. And now they were gone. Anyone who had seen either of them land in New Babylon and make their way from the hangar to the palace and to Akbar's office would never admit it or mention it. They had been shot down by the enemy, and that was that. Chang checked on the planes again. Already their serial numbers had been changed, and the original numbers were marked as lost in action. Somehow, the total number of operative GC fighter bombers in New Babylon did not change. The story that had scrolled across Chang's screen would broadcast around the world that night. No doubt Carpathian himself would express abject personal sorrow over the losses. Chang checked the records in Greece and found that Nelson Stefanich had forwarded location coordinates to Howie Johnson's team. It was a couple of hours yet, still nightfall, when Mac planned to pay the visit. Chang had time to confirm Mac's instructions to the crew at the Potomac airport to refuel the Rooster Tail, and entered into the computer that Senior Commander Johnson had been cleared at the highest levels to fly it to New Babylon. That done, Chang found Stefanich's cell phone number and called it into Mac. Got everything else you need? Chang said. Well, I'd like to know the disposition of a Stavros kid. Nothing on that here, sir. Do you hold any hope? Always, Chang, but that's just me. Ask Stefanich. Oh, I will. Hey, Chang. Sir? Who's better than you? Thank you, sir. Finally, Chang was able to check his other recordings from throughout the day. He located the one emanating from Carpathia's office and backed up to several minutes before Nikolai, his secretary Crystal, Leon Fortunato, Suhail Akbar, and Viv Evans sat watching the feed from the cockpit of the initial fighter bomber. Suhail had just told the Potent he had arranged for him to watch live, and Carpathia had expressed excited anticipation. Chang sped through several minutes of setup and of Nikolai welcoming the various ones into the room. Then, pay dirt. Akbar informed Carpathia that the fighter bombers were set for takeoff from Amman, and that he would bring that up on the monitor if you wish. If I wish, please. Palace to Amman command, Suhail said. Amman, go ahead, Palace. Initiate visual coverage for takeoff. Roger that. Several seconds of silence, then Carpathia. Suhail, these are fighter bombers? Is it an optical illusion? They look huge. Oh, they are eminence. They have been in service only a few weeks. Notice how high they sit off the ground. The gear is the tallest of any fighter ever. It has to be to allow room for the payload. That is the bomb underneath. Yes, sir. Talk about huge. It looks massive. Way too big to be carried internally, sir. It's 4.5 feet in diameter and 11 feet long. The thing weighs 15,000 pounds. You do not say. Oh, yes, sir. It's carried on what we call an underbelly centerline station. And what is it, Suhel? What are we serving the enemy today? The Americans used to call these Big Blue 82s. They are concussion bombs. 80% of their weight is made up of a gel consisting of polystyrene, ammonium nitrate, and powdered aluminum. Is it as powerful as it is large? Excellency, Suhel said, nothing but a nuclear weapon could be more so. These are designed to detonate just a few feet off the ground and generate 1,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. It could kill everything, even the little creatures below the ground, in an area as large as 2,000 acres. The mushroom cloud alone will rise more than a mile, and we're dropping two, plus a missile. Yes, sir. Fire? Oh, Your Highness, that's the best part. Each concussion bomb creates a fireball 6,000 feet in diameter. Chang recoiled at a loud hiss, and he imagined a nearly overcome Carpathia inhaling deeply through his nose and exhaling through clenched teeth. Later, when the pilots let loose their payloads, Nikolai said, Suhel, how quickly can we get this on television? I'm sure it's just a matter of a few switches. Excellent. Do it now. Someone left the room. The recording was interrupted only with occasional outbursts from Carpathia. Ah, look. Oh, perfect. On target. Both of them. The best revenge is success. Absolutely. And victory. Yes, sir. Total and complete, Nikolai said. Several grunted. A loud sigh ended in a hum. It reminded Chang of a lion he had seen at the zoo in Beijing. It had just gorged itself on several pounds of raw beef, roared, yawned, and stretched, settled its wide chin on its paws, and sighed like that, followed by a low rumbling from deep inside. For several minutes they watched, and occasionally someone congratulated Nikolai. Finally, your lordship. That was Viv Evans. Carpathia did not respond, making Chang wonder if she was still in his doghouse. To all the other compliments, he merely said, Thank you, thank you. The suggestion from the primary pilot to abort the missile launch was immediately rejected by Suhel. Yes, Nikolai said in the background. Very good, Director Akbar. The final dart. When the pilot sounded insubordinate, Suhel immediately countered. Then silence, finally broken by Carpathia. Was I hearing things, or did he dare cross you? He came right to the edge, Excellency. Reprimand him, Leon squawked. I do not believe he meant for me to hear it. He is watching in person what we are seeing on a screen. Of course, it sounded like overkill to him. But still, Leon said. Someone shushed him. When the missile hit and the pilot began his exulting, disbelieving commentary, Chang heard a chair roll back as if someone had stood suddenly. What? That was Nikolai? Impossible, Fortunato. Cut the feed, Carpathia said, and Akbar repeated it loud. Footsteps away from the table, and Chang assumed toward the monitor, the door opening, the sounds of people leaving. Evidently everyone but Nikolai and Suhel. Two of our largest incendiary bombs, Carpathia whispered. You said one was more than enough. It should have been. We saw the flames, watched them burn. For how long? Long enough. Several minutes of relative silence, during which Chang believed he heard Carpathia panting. And when the Potent finally spoke, he sounded desperate and short of breath. Listen to me, Suhel. Yes, sir. Are you listening? I am, sir. Deal with those pilots. They missed. They failed. Their eyes deceived them. Do not allow this victory to go to the Judites. Do not. I hear you, sir. Then contact the other 9 regional potentates personally on my behalf. Tell them the Judites have raised arms against us and have dealt a severe blow. We shall retaliate. I told them this only recently. You did, sir? But the time is now. The budget is limitless. I will sanction condone, support, and reward the death of any Jew anywhere in the world. I want this done as a top priority by any means. Imprison them, torture them, humiliate them, shame them, blaspheme their God, plunder everything they own. Nothing is more important to the potent. Do you understand? I do. Go quickly. Do it now. Yes, sir. And Suhel, sir, send Reverend Fortunato in. In seconds, Leon came bustling. Oh, Highness, I don't know what to say. I can't understand it. What went? My dear, most high Reverend Fortunato, kiss my hand. How may I serve you, potent? I kneel before you. Be still and hear me. Are you still my most trusted devotee? Oh, yes, Supreme. Shh, my Reverend Father of Carpathianism. I am, sincerely. Leon, do you love me? You know I do. Do you cherish me with all my, do you worship me? Oh, my beloved. Stand up, Leon, and hear me. My enemies mock me. They perform miracles. They poison my people, call swords down on them from heaven, turn the seas into blood. And now they survive bombs and fire. But I too have power. You know this. It is available to you, Leon. I have seen you use it. I have seen you call down lightning that slays those who would oppose me. Leon, I want to fight fire with fire. I want Jesus's. Do you hear me? Sir, I want messiahs. Messiahs? I want saviors in my name. Tell me more, Excellency. Find them, thousands of them. Train them, raise them up. Imbue them with the power with which I have blessed you. I want them healing the sick, turning water to blood and blood to water. I want them performing miracles in my name, drawing the undecided, yeah, even the enemy away from his God and to me. I will do it, Excellency. Will you? I will if you will empower me. Kneel before me again, Leon. Lay your hands on me, risen one. I confer upon you all the power vested in me from above and below the earth. I give you power to do great and mighty and wonderful and terrifying things. Acts so splendiferous and phantasmagorical that no man can see them and not be persuaded that I am his God. Leon sobbed. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Excellency. Go, Leon, Carpathia said. Go quickly and do it now. And that is the end of chapter 4. Next, we'll be reading chapter 5. Thank you for joining me and have a wonderful day.